Okay guys, the question is, what can I do as a parent to ensure that my child does not join a gang? And I'm going to go to Colin because Colin runs Gangs Unite, organisation that works with gang members. So Colin, what is the information that you could give to help parents?
I would say, first of all, do it as early as possible. The earlier you engage with your young person about this type of lifestyle is the more effective it will be. Once they've already gone year 9, year 10, now it's more intervention, not really preventing them from being it. They've already got some exposure of it. So I think the earlier you do it and address it and be as open and as honest and as real with your young people. See, what we tend to do as parents, we talk to our children like they don't really understand what's going on. We kind of speak down to them at times. Children are more aware of what's happening in their world than we are.
Yeah, we're slow to catch up, right?
So it's better to speak to them from that level.
And Colin, you said something from year 9 and year 10, that's relatively young, like that's 14, 15, right, guys? So what are we saying, even younger than that, like primary school age?
I would say, yeah, from year 6, year 7. By the time you get to year 8 and year 9, like I said, you're intervening in something because they've already now involved themselves. Being in a gang, it's exciting. It's a culture that all young people are taking on. Whether they're in a gang or they're not in a gang, they all dress the same way, they all talk the same way, they all behave the same way. Because it's cultural. It's just the way that the police or certain other authorities deal with groups of young people, which determine whether they're gangs or not.
You know, the funny thing about this is it's like I try and look back at the strategies my mum used to use when talking about this, and it's like, for instance, I might have a friend that is not a regular visitor. He comes in my household, what tends to happen is you come in, you have to say good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, not even hello, all right? So one of my friends came in, I gave him the briefing beforehand. He was like,
formal introductions only.
Good afternoon.
Okay.
He came in and said hello. And then when he went into the bedroom, my mum said, I told you don't join bad gangs. So that was it. It was like literally everything was done.
Just because he said hello, she said
could
that.
be in a gang.
No,
don't join
that's
bad
too
gang.
informal.
You know, so, but on a more serious note, adding to what Colin said, it's about, for me, it's paying attention. All right, from a much earlier age. That transition from year 6, where they want to tell you about everything, to now year 7, how was your day? It was good. What was good about it? Elaborate. And another key thing is, who are the friends? Get to know who the friends are, and their parents, for instance. And so that makes the transition of where you're going. You can easily now say, yes, you're free to go because I know the parents, and you can easily communicate, so you can verify the lies that they might tell. I'm going here, you don't know the friend, you don't know the parents, how do you verify, the lies? So these little things is, what parents can do, is just paying attention and just being a little bit more involved.
Yeah, just to piggyback off both what Colin and Emeka were saying, early, without a doubt, it has to happen early, 100%. But also, it could be simple things like, what's their favorite color? What's their favorite food? And one thing I've noticed, even, sometimes in myself, like as parents, we can be stubborn sometimes. Once we feel like we know something, that's it. But really and truly, like we have to keep learning, because what your, child might say now is, blue is their favorite color. 5 years from then, it could be blue. It could be black. It could be yellow. Do you know what I mean?
It could still be blue.
It could still be blue. It could still be blue. But what I'm trying to say is, it can change over time. So we parents, we have to learn to adapt and learn. We have to keep learning as well. Don't be stubborn. Keep learning. Also try and integrate your children into activities. So whether it's boxing or art or football, or anything. Doesn't necessarily have to be something physical, but you know, something that's going to sort of like keep them occupied and
Something
keep the mind
interesting.
stimulated.
Yeah,
You know,
that saying, the devil makes work for idle hands, isn't it? So make sure that they stay busy.
I got to concur with everything the gentlemen have said. I would just like to, and I'm not being flippant about it, but I just want us to be fully aware of the connotations of the word gang, because you're right. Listen, my boy goes and joins the coding gang and they're sitting there writing the next level of computer. I'm happy as Larry, yeah? My boy goes and joins the chess gang. I'm chuffed to bits, yeah? Unfortunately, there is a gang that will bring negative influences and actions. We don't want him to do that. So that's the first part. You know, that word gang is so emotive, yeah? But all our young people, as I think Colin said, they gravitate to people that are like-minded to them. And those are essentially gangs for whatever the subject matter may be. Anyway, I think I think there's 3 strands to my strategy. You have to engage. And by engage, I mean, as the gentleman have said, that's asking questions. That is asking questions, but asking to elaborate, not accepting a one-word answer, being investigative in the way you're asking your child to explain what's happening to them internally, yeah? That's the first point. Second, you've got to communicate. And the communication comes from the examples you set. Me and my missus, we talk to each other in front of the children about things that affect the family. We explain to the children that things don't get done without communication. They're only 6 and 11, but they're hearing that message verbatim every day. Communication is important to tell another person about how you're feeling. Yeah. And the last part is the practical part. Growing up, my mum filled my time with stuff, whether it was Cub Scouts or other, and if she didn't, I'd be out in the park kicking football with my friend till 11 o'clock at night. It was safe enough to do that then. Yeah. It isn't now. So you as a parent need to be proactive in how you're filling up your child's practical time. Not only does it keep them away from whatever negative influences there may be out there, but you're also exposing them to a new cohort of friends, a new cohort of ideas, of experiences. You know, speaking personally, my children have been exposed to ballet, tap, karate, football, art club, drawing club, jazz club. Just because, you know what, fill up your time and do something, yeah?
So what about them parents that can't afford to take their children them places?
And I was going to go on to that. Do you know what? It's free to go to the park with a ball. It's free to go and sit down with a chessboard. It's free to go and say, do you know what? Let's go and see what different birds, what kind of trees live in our neighborhood. It's free to go. In fact, one of my favorite trips to do with my children is to buy a travel card for myself, because it's free for the children, and go on all the variety of London transport. From DLR with no train driver, to the Emirates airline that's full in the air, to the river bus that goes on the Thames, and explain about your city.
You've got a good network. There's mum and dad there.
That's what I was about to say.
You've got the facilities to do all those
There's a
things.
support network, isn't it?
Most young people now, they grow up in the States. They're already labelled a gang by where they live.
Yes.
Whether they're involved in it or not, whether there is an actual gang in the estate or not, just because you live in the estate, now you're drawn into that. Now, what do? Do you tell young people that they can't hang around with the friends that live in their estate? Because that's the problem, because many parents are trying to tell young people, you can't hang around with them because they're all bad.
I don't think
But you still live in the estate.
Yeah, I don't think that's the way to go. I think personally you need to go the other way. As you said, you need to know who your friends' are, your son's and your child's friends are, and engage with them and their parents and your community. Growing up, and it's easy to hark back, but growing up, our communities were involved in raising our children, yeah? Your neighbour could tell you off just as much as your mum could. Now, our world is a lot more insular, you look after what you're doing, but in our community, and I'm talking about the black community, that should still be something that we look out for, right? That should still be something that we're saying, you know what, who's that boy you move with on the estate? Well, come, bring him to the yard, let me see what he's saying. That should still be a conversation you're having with your kid.
It comes back from a previous conversation. When young people are getting excluded from school and getting thrown out of school and they're trapped in the block, this is their world. Their world is so limited like that. And it's understanding that there's many circumstances that actually lead children to that same place. It's not that everyone chooses to be in a gang. Some are not The word gang is just a group. But the way that they are targeted when they walk in groups, now the injustice again is what actually takes them to that next step. You spoke about football. I've got 13-year-olds who can't go in the park and play football. It's not safe. And they're vulnerable now, running up and down, can't see who's coming, so they won't play football. So you've got to think of other things in order to occupy young people's minds with.
And I'd even go, you make a brilliant point, but I'd go deeper and say, do you know what, if they go football, there's a chance of them being targeted, groomed to be inculcated into the gang, just by going out to exercise yourself. Yeah.
You see the word grooming there? I need us to understand. See, grooming is not arting. I couldn't imagine me grooming someone's younger brother or child to go and do something for me. It's never happened from in my day up until now. But if you go back, say 10 years ago when certain Eastern European groups came here, Albanians especially, when they came alongside our young gangs, that's where all this grooming and all this type of thing happened. I've worked with gangs for years. We're not organized. Black gangs are not organized at all. So there's no way that a black gang is gonna have the capacity to arrange so many of these trap houses up and down the country to send young people to. There's someone else at the head of the snake that is the puppet orchestrating the string, that is creating these environments and issues for the young people, and we need to be aware of it. It's not them themselves, and the grooming isn't coming just from their peers. It's coming from even further up.
So would you say then, based on what you're saying, that the parents need to be educated about that? Yes. They need to know about that. So where could they, find that source of information?
I said again, I mean, they can come someone like Gangs Unite, but there's other organizations that do the same thing. And when we tend to go to those more council-led type of thing, they just give you information, but they don't give you the reality of what the young person's actually experiencing. So it's people on the ground, organizations like ourselves and other organizations. There's so many that you can go to.
Thank you, guys. Another emotive subject, and I know that we're going to have lots of comments in the timeline, like asking so much more questions, and I'm sure it's going to be something that we're going to come back and cover as the season goes on and into future seasons as well. It's that time again where we have our bonus question. I'm gonna let one of our new teachers pick a question.
Brother Malcolm in his house.
Yeah, I think it's only right.
We didn't land on Plymouth Rock. I'm just saying, sorry.
Landed on us.
He's getting excited. Thank you, Hakeem. You can read it out if you would like.
Thank you. Question 3. Across the UK, there have been staff shortages. How has this affected the quality of education experienced by our young people?
Okay.
For me, with this particular question, it's looking at what are some of the reasons why there's staff shortages. So obviously we know we've just come from a pandemic, or still in it, and we have to also look at some of the workload within the teachers. So eventually what that does is we're now having cover teachers who are coming in who haven't got that relationship with the students. All right, they might be great teachers in their own right, but in terms of when you're just coming in to cover, you're already pegged back. Students try to take disadvantage, just think it's just another inset day, isn't it? And so then the standard of the education it dips, because where is the learning actually taking place? So in order to make sure, if we know that having cover is reducing the standard of the education, the quality of education, then we now need to look at the reasons why there is shortages in the first place, which could be, I know there's a lot of teachers who are leaving the profession because of the workload and so on and so forth. And obviously the pandemic is the pandemic. But yeah, it would just be good to see what you guys have to say in regards to sort of the workload, or looking at how the pandemic has affected everyone in that situation.
I have to say, I really, it strikes a chord with me what Emeka's saying. I've always thought that teachers are not compensated and the teachers are well paid. Yeah, they are well paid, especially if you follow through the stages of your career. However, if you're a teacher that only wants to be a classroom teacher, your pay won't reflect the influence you can have on a young person. You know, a head of department, assistant head, deputy head, who's having less of an influence in the classroom, well, we're getting more paid than you. And I know we can think about that strategically, but I'm just thinking that person at the coalface, that person dealing with 30 children, of which 10 I've got EHCP plan, 5 are SEM, 4 I've got behavioural issue, 2 ain't ate that morning, 1 just hates your guts. They're
angry with life.
100. And as Emeka quite quietly put, you know, due to shortages, you're having cover teachers who with the best intentions are coming in to do their best, but you're starting behind the 8 ball because you don't know these children, you're not sure where they are academically, you're not even sure of the strategies that have been used successfully with them previously, but you're just coming in to get through the day. How can that help our young child move forward?
And does the young person even respect the cover teacher? We're only here for a couple of hours, a couple of days. I don't have to listen to you.
I would say to you, the cover teacher, that role is crucial. It depends on you. It depends on you. I've been a cover teacher before, and I go in and I keep it real. And I'll say, listen, I'm here for this period of time. I want to make sure that you have the best value education that I can give you. Now, if you're not on that, I'm going to follow the disciplinary reasons, the disciplinary rules. But I've seen other cover teachers come in because I'm just getting through this day. Right? Right. Yeah. So it's on you. It's on you. What's your personal, professional ability to affect change, and then you go ahead and do it.
Yeah, and just to say as well, with the cover teachers as well, like what sometimes actually ends up happening is, you know, teachers that have been there end up taking the backlash of what they've left in terms of, you know, they see 5 o'clock, they're out the door, that's it. They don't want to deal with like calling parents, they don't want to deal with, you know, the extra paperwork, etc., etc. So yeah, the important stuff. So we're then left behind doing the extra work and not getting paid for that extra time also as well. So yeah, it is a bit, it's not great in that way. Also, I want to add, I feel like the quality, or actually let me rephrase that, there's got to be a passion. There's got to be a passion, and I feel like the substitute teachers, you know, as we've already kind of said, you know, they come in just to do their time, get paid, and kind of leave. Not all, but some. And I feel like, you know, I always say that there has to be a real sort of purpose, like a real sort of passion, why you want to do this as well. So, and if you do have a passion, it helps so much, and it sort of like, you know, it integrates onto other teachers and other staff members as well. So,
quick question, because I know we're coming up to the end of time. How does it impact a young person's education if they've consistently got throughout the school year cover teachers after one after the other? Am I going to realistically pass that subject?
Yeah, I think that the main impact will be the standard of work that they're able to produce, the level of understanding that they have at the end of that academic year, not having that input that they would normally have had in terms of the regular one-to-one sessions, the feedback, because learning is all about feedback. In terms of if you do something, you do it wrong, and your teacher gives you feedback, and you're able to now improve on that. And I think teachers generally are very altruistic in a sense where a lot of it is done through passion. You know, a lot of things are done in their own time, and they're very selfless with that. And so sometimes they want to make sure that their students get the best, even if it's not a sort of allocated time for them to be able to do that. And obviously, when you now have sort of cover teachers and having people who are just, there's no consistency, then that standard will naturally drop, and then you know, the students don't feel like they're getting the full experience. And so it's important to make sure that we have that level of consistency and actually listen to the teachers when they say they need support.
Guys, thank you for your passion. I love it. And thank you everyone at home for watching. Always like valuable nuggets of information to share, not with parents and young people.
Pleasure.
Black Men United.
Pleasure. Always.
Okay, thank you. I'm in it. I'm glad. Guys, thank you for watching, and we'll see you again next week for another episode of The Teacher Surgery.